evening, I'm Heyling Chan in Hong Kong and welcome to ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show, a shake-up of MTR's management in the wake of the Sha Tin Central Link construction scandal. A think tank suggests doubling the size of the government's proposed East Lantau Metropolis reclamation project, but at what cost? And a frantic recovery effort in Indonesia. Rescue crews on the island of Lombok deal with death and destruction. We begin tonight with MTR finally caving in to government pressures surrounding the Sha Tin Central Link scandal. The railway operator announced this evening its projects director and 3 general managers have resigned, while its CEO is retiring early in the wake of the shoddy construction scandal. MTR announced this evening that its projects director, Philco Wong, and 3 other general managers have resigned over the Sha Tin Central Link construction scandal. CEO Lincoln Leung will also retire early, leaving when a replacement for him is found.
We are an institution, a company that very much respects and treasures responsibility and accountability. The fact that these events had happened during my time as CEO, I am accountable and ultimately responsible for these events.
Meanwhile, Chairman Frederick Ma said he has offered to resign twice, but the government refused to accept it. His contract with the railway operator expires at the end of the year. The government was quick to insist that construction of the Sha Tin Central Link won't be drastically affected by the resignations.
We are talking about the sacking of a few officials or officers. There are bound to be, impacts upon the operation in terms of project management. And therefore, we are making every endeavor to ensure smooth transition and efficient operation of the projects division in due course.
The government had earlier accused MTR of giving it false information about construction flaws at the Hung Hom station and of submitting design plans different from those initially approved by the Buildings Department. Huge public safety concerns have prompted the government to lash out at MTR for failing to explain the issue. MTR is also under scrutiny for how it's managing ground sinking at a number of locations. The railway company has revealed it's monitoring 64 sites for possible subsidence. That figure is much higher than initial public expectations. District councillors and engineers have expressed their worries, saying the situation is out of control. Armand Lee has the story.
MTR has, for the very first time, revealed a list of 64 sites it's been monitoring for subsidence. The report, which dropped late Monday night, shows monitoring sites all over the city and on different rail lines. Tin Wing Station in Tin Shui Wai, along the light rail, has the most serious subsidence at 9 centimeters. That exceeds the facility's safety level of 8 centimeters. The construction works nearby have stopped, but the sinking remains an issue. The district councillor is warning it's out of control.
Even with the construction work on hold, the sinking still continues, even exceeding the safety level. It's dangerous. It could be life-threatening.
Kowloon Station is another named on MTR's list. With 1.7 centimeters subsidence, it's close to the safety level of 2 centimeters. But the monitoring work has since wrapped up because the rail company said construction of the West Kowloon Cultural District M+ project is now complete. One engineer, though, says he wants MTR to be more cautious.
Any monitoring should happen over the long term, especially on reclaimed land. There could still be subsidence after decades, perhaps not die that much, but there remains a need to monitor for longer than a year or so.
Yuen Long Station was the first affected site discovered by local media back in June. That location appears on MTR's list as well. More sinking platform scares were then reviewed in later months. The government has also introduced a new mechanism where the Buildings Department will notify MTR and the Electrical and Mechanical Service Department when it grants consent for works within railway protection areas. The move should give the rail company enough time to draft plans to monitor its operations.
Now let's take a look at the city's perennial debate on land supply. Think tank Our Hong Kong Foundation today offered a new proposal on the East Lantau Metropolis development. It said the government's original plan is too conservative. The think tank proposed to reclaim 2,200 hectares of land in East Lantau to build a man-made island between Lantau and Hong Kong Island. The figure is double the government's goal, which is only 1,000 hectares. It estimates the island could house up to 1.1 million residents, but stopped short of estimating the project's total cost.
This is a recommendation. We're a think tank. This is not a government department or government policy level announcing, what Hong Kong will do. We're just presenting what, after very heavy, intensive research, what we believe Hong Kong needs to do. Much more detailed feasibility studies will need to be conducted.
Well, earlier today, I spoke to Ryan Ip, senior researcher at Our Hong Kong Foundation, to talk about the issue. I asked him why the think tank is proposing the government double the size of its suggested reclamation site in East Lantau.
The government is already planned to have, a East Lantau metropolis, around 1,000 hectares. But we think that this can be, the scale of this can be increased. Actually, we have studied this with, a consultant, a group, and also McKinsey. We think that we can double the size of this island to, 2,000 hectares to hopefully, solve our housing problems, to decrease our population density, and also increase our, per capita living space.
Okay, so in a press conference earlier this afternoon, your executive director seemed pretty reluctant to discuss cost, right? So how would you persuade Hong Kongers that your proposal is worth the money?
I think you should not view that as an expense, rather you should view that as an investment for Hong Kong. If you look back at the 90s, we have the airport project, and at that time, people also complained about the cost. And if today, without this project, we will not have the Hong Kong airport. We will not have the IFC. We will not have a lot of the the Dong Shung New Towns and Tsing Ma Beach. A lot of this infrastructure.
The Hospital Authority has announced an upgrade of services at Eastern Hospital. It'll add 10 beds for oncology and 20 for accident and emergencies in the coming year. It'll also roll out a plan to ensure pharmacists remind elderly patients about regular drug refills. The Eastern Hospital has been renovated to expand its wards for day procedures and treatments. The number of wards will be increased to 11, which is expected to cater for more than 2,000 patient visits per month. The government's public annuity scheme is on track to meet its applications target. That's according to the chief executive of the Hong Kong Mortgage Corporation Annuity, Edmund Lau. On a radio program, Lau said many applicants have opted to put in the maximum amount of $1 million. He added that the pricing and return rate of the product won't be adjusted in near future, as they were calculated based on long-term financial data. Applications for the scheme will close tomorrow. Most of the subscribers so far are aged between 65 and 75. Lau said he has no plans to lower the age limit.
There
are very few annuity products for people aged 65 and above. There seems to be an age gap in the market, and that's why we are trying to fill that. Hong Kong's annuity products mainly cater to younger people, and these are deferred annuities. That market is already very vibrant, so our focus would still be on senior citizens.
Hong Kong police raided a site in Kowloon City for making counterfeit banknotes, mostly of the $500 and $1,000 variety. One American and 2 Pakistanis were arrested. They're aged between 35 and 47. The police seized $1.4 million worth of counterfeit money, 3 printers, and tools used in making the fake notes. Authorities say the notes were poorly made, but it's believed some could still be in circulation. Coming up next, the latest from the world of business. Starting with local markets, the Hang Seng Index ended 1.5% higher at 28,248. The market was boosted by gains in property stocks after developer Country Garden said it expected good first-half results. Over in Shanghai, the composite index did really well, climbing 2.7% to close at 2,779. This is its biggest gain since May 2016, with the energy sector, industrials and basic materials all gaining more than 3%. Oil prices are on the rise today following the reintroduction of U.S. sanctions on Iran. The move is expected to tighten global oil supplies as Iran is a major crude exporter. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has hit back at Washington, describing the penalties as psychological warfare meant to divide his country. President Donald Trump reimposed the sanctions to stop Tehran from being able to do business in U.S. dollars. The EU, China, and India say they oppose these measures. While, of course, China and the U.S. are also at loggerheads over trade, Beijing is keeping up its criticism of Washington, with state media calling Trump's belief that he's winning the trade war wishful thinking. But while the rhetoric on both sides is increasingly aggressive and businesses are caught on the back foot, some companies are cashing in on the trade war. Eve Johnson explains.
Washington and Beijing's escalating trade war has companies on both sides of the Pacific struggling to deal with all the uncertainty. But one group is cashing in: consultants. International trade advisors say they're busier than ever selling their services to companies trying to navigate the confusion. Reuters' Engen Pham in Shanghai says they're doling out advice on ways to get around trade rules without breaking the law.
One of the things that companies will go to consultants for is to ask them whether or not they can recode one of their products. If it's used for one purpose, it may come under a code which is subject to an increased tariff, whereas if it's under a different purpose, if it can be used for a different purpose, then it's not subject to the increased tariff. And so very often you need expert opinion to be able to help you assess that.
U.S. consultancy Derringer says it's also seen a bump in demand for so-called tariff engineering. One of these strategies is called a, quote, complete breakdown.
So, for example, if you are a company that is in China and you are exporting lawnmowers to the US for sale, then if, for example, there is a tariff on lawnmowers in the US, then what you could do, you could disassemble the lawnmower in China and export the parts instead of the entire lawnmower to the US and then reassemble in the US.
Consultants are also busy advising companies on their supply chains, with some U.S. firms looking to shift from China to countries not affected by tariffs, like Thailand or Vietnam. All this means big money for U.S. firms like Mohawk Global Trade Advisors. Its consultancy business is up by 20%, ever since U.S. President Donald Trump helped set the tariff battle in motion. But some consultants say they're not getting complacent just yet. One warning that when it comes to Donald Trump and his policies, everything could change at the drop of a tweet.
Time for a quick break, but stay with us. Up next, devastation and destruction in Indonesia's holiday paradise of Lombok after Sunday's powerful quake.
This week on Theatre 96.
Tommy Byrne knows this race is his now.
The fast life of Formula One's bad boy.
Tommy Byrne is in a class of his own in Formula Ford racing this year.
Gonna be fun. Very elitist sport.
I don't think I got the same respect that the guys with the money got.
He's a racer, a raconteur, a thief.
They were enabling the drugs and the alcohol, and he knew it wasn't helping.
You didn't get stability with Tommy Byrne. You got chaos.
The greatest racing driver you've never seen.
My life was over. I'm lucky to be alive, I guess.
A legend that was almost born.
I knew I was the best driver in the world.
Crash and Burn. Sunday night at 9:30 on ViuTV 6, Theatre 96.
Ambitious new movie by the creator of San Andreas. Rampage. Available on Now Video Express. Rent and watch right away with Now TV set-top box. Tune into channel 106 and check out what's hot on Now Video Express. Or call our service hotline for details. No food.
Need some food.
No shelter.
I have to build up my shelter.
No fresh water.
There we go. I need this.
No tools.
This I can make use of.
No camera crew.
There's just not enough to gather here. There's not enough to hunt.
Just one man alone in the wilderness, surviving. Survivor Man. Wednesday night at 8:30 on ViuTV 6. The most amazing skills, tricks and stunts in the extreme sports scene today. Fascinating and dazzling moments that will get your heart racing. So the fluidity and transcendent experience that will leave you in awe. Giving you access to the best in the world of extreme sports. Saturday and Sunday at 1:30 on ViuTV 6. One of America's most loved TV sitcoms in the history of television.
Alex, I love you! What's happening here? Come with me.
I'm sorry. I can't do this.
Created by the Avengers films mastermind, the Russo brothers.
Great news. We are back together. Here we go again.
Another double bloody.
The gang has whatever it takes to keep the good times rolling.
Let's go, ladies. It's time to blast our glutes.
Best night ever.
A comedy about lovers.
Did she say the sex was bad?
Every relationship.
And friends.
None of us has made a new friend in like 11 years.
Happy endings. Saturday night at 9 on Channel 96 ViuTV 6.
Welcome back. Rescuers on Indonesia's island of Lombok are still hoping to pull victims out alive from the rubble amid the rising death toll. Hundreds of tourists there, meanwhile, remain stranded. This 23-year-old woman was found alive beneath a collapsed convenience store. Rescue crews say they'd almost lost faith in finding survivors under the structure until they heard a voice. There was a moment of relief and joy after she was pulled out and taken to hospital. Scores of tourists are trying to leave the island after Sunday's strong quake. Reuters correspondent Kanupriya Kapoor has this update from the ground.
So this is the kind of destruction we're seeing in the north of Lombok, where the earthquake happened a few days ago. We're about 30 minutes drive away from where the epicenter was, and this is a village where people have completely lost their homes. They've been completely flattened. Most residents have evacuated. So people in places like these have nothing to come back to. They think a lot of them rely on the tourism sector for their livelihood. A lot of the tourists, most of the tourists have fled, and they think it will take anything between 6 months to a year to get back on their feet because of this disaster.
Canada says it's standing firm in its defense of human rights after a diplomatic row with Saudi Arabia. Riyadh has frozen new trade and investment deals with Ottawa and expelled the Canadian ambassador in retaliation for the government's call to free arrested Saudi civil society activists. Emily Wither has this report.
Saudi Arabia lashing out at Canada after the country's foreign ministry urged Riyadh to release arrested civil rights activists. The kingdom has suspended new trade and investment with Canada, ordered the ambassador to leave within 24 hours and recalled its own from Ottawa. The Saudi Foreign Ministry saying it retained its right to take further action over Canada's, quote, interference in their internal affairs.
Canada will always stand up for human rights in Canada and around the world, and women's rights are human rights.
Canada singling out Sama Badawi, who was arrested a week ago. The women's rights campaigner won the International Women of Courage Award in 2012 and had been calling for an end to the kingdom's male guardianship system. She's the latest to be swept up in a government crackdown on activists, clerics and journalists. More than a dozen women's rights activists have been targeted since May. A move at odds with the progressive image the government is projecting under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Among the easing social restrictions, women are now allowed to drive. But most of those arrested campaigned for that very right.
Elsewhere in the world, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was a no-show at a rally held in his honor. Hundreds gathered in the capital Caracas yesterday to demonstrate their support for the leader. The rally comes off the back of weekend drone blasts that the government is calling an assassination attempt on Maduro. The president's approval rating is hovering around 25%, with opponents blaming his policies for worsening an economic meltdown. In Italy, at least 2 people have been killed and over 60 injured after 2 vehicles collided and exploded near Bologna airport. Italian media say a lorry carrying cars crashed on a bridge with another tanker truck containing inflammable materials. The accident caused an explosion, sending a huge ball of fire and smoke into the sky. Emergency crews in California are battling what's become the largest wildfire in the state's history. The Mendocino complex has grown to cover more than 280,000 acres and is continuing to spread. The fire has already destroyed 75 homes and forced thousands to flee. Some environmental researchers say the recent wave of wildfires and droughts indicate the world is at risk of entering hothouse conditions. A scientific study says that the government's warming target reached at the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement may not stop a domino effect from moving the Earth well beyond it and into catastrophic scenarios. Matthew Larotonda has the details.
A new study says that the global warming targets set at the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement may be too little to stop catastrophic temperature rises. The goal of the accord is to keep the world's average temperature from rising 2 degrees Celsius above what it was before the Industrial Revolution. Even 2 degrees comes with its own dangers, but is widely considered a tipping point for the planet. We're currently at 1 degree Celsius and rising. The latest study was conducted jointly by the Australian National University, University of Copenhagen, and other institutes. It says that even if that goal was met, other processes that have already been worsened by climate change may carry the Earth up to 4 to 5 degrees higher. Processes such as melting polar ice and methane releasing from the seafloor. A rise of that magnitude would make new regions of the planet uninhabitable in time. And in the short term, scenes like the rare heat wave currently hitting Europe will become much more common, along with the disasters that accompany it. It may all be a moot point, though. The United Nations has previously warned the voluntary greenhouse gas reductions agreed in Paris may not be enough to reach the 2-degree target anyway, even if governments kept to their pledges. Donald Trump pulled the United States out of it altogether.
Let's switch gears now and get the latest sports news. Tennis first, and Rafael Nadal will return to action in the Rogers Cup in Toronto this week. It'll be the Spaniard's first appearance since losing in the Wimbledon semi-finals as he steps up his preparations for the US Open. The world #1 is the defending champion at Flushing Meadows, which takes place at the end of the month. In the meantime, Nadal faces a tough return to the hard courts with unpredictable Frenchman Benoit Paire, his opponent in the second round, and Stan Wawrinka or Nick Kyrgios potential opposition in round 3. It'll be a Rogers Cup without Roger Federer, though. The Swiss star withdrew from the event, along with several big names, including Andy Murray and Serena Williams. Rafa, though, feels refreshed after a 3-week break.
After a great run in clay and grass, I needed some period of time off, and that's what I did. Of course, now is the moment to work hard again and just try to be ready for the action here. And that's what I'm doing these couple of days, working hard and just trying to be ready.
On to some football news now. Arsenal's majority shareholder Stan Kroenke has made an offer of over $750 million to buy the whole of the club. It's a deal that would value Arsenal at $2.3 billion. The American billionaire, owning 67% of Arsenal initially, will buy 30% more of the club's ownership from Alisher Usmanov. His company calls this a move to further Arsenal's strategy and ambitions. The buyout announcement was made to the London Stock Exchange on Tuesday, but the Arsenal Supporters Trust called the news a dreadful day for the Gunners. New Barcelona signing Arturo Vidal says he wants to win everything whilst he's at the club, especially the Champions League. The 31-year-old midfielder joined the La Liga champions from Bayern Munich for a reported fee of up to $24 million. Vidal won Serie A with Juventus 4 times between 2012 and 2015 and lifted the Bundesliga trophy in each of his 3 seasons at Bayern, but has never won the European Cup. Barcelona last won the Champions League in 2015, beating Vidal's Juventus in the final, and rivals Real Madrid have won it in each of the 3 seasons since. Over in cricket, England all-rounder Ben Stokes is on trial in Bristol this week for alleged affray. The court heard the 27-year-old allegedly mocked a gay couple outside a nightclub before knocking 2 other men unconscious in a fight in September. He's been charged with affray along with 2 other men, all denying the accusations. Stokes missed the entire Ashes series after being suspended from the England team in the winter. He starred last weekend as England beat India in their first test at Edgbaston, but has been ruled out for the second test, which starts on Thursday. That's it for now. Join us again tomorrow evening for an update on the stories that are shaping your world. I'm Heyling Chan, and this is ViuTV News.
Coming up next, Wives with Knives Season 2.
We enrage, we envy, we resent, we dislike.
We breathe, we laugh, we cry, we live.
We disappoint, we frustrate, we bore, we suffer.
We fear, we doubt, we defeat, we empower.
We communicate,
we talk,
we listen,
we learn.
We care. Jazzing up.
Touching hearts.
Paying attention.
Seemingly distant.
Deeply connected.
Defending champion In Kyung Kim had a difficult start at the Women's British Open in England as she struggled with her back 9. Spain's Carlota Sicanda is one of 11 golfers who scored 3 under rounds of 69 to share the 10th place. 4 shots off the pace, and with her birdie put at 3rd, Lydia Ko of New Zealand is 3 shots off it. Whoa. Georgia Hall made 3 straight birdies in a fine exhibition on home soil, which put her in 3rd place after the first round. Mamiko Higa posted 7 birdies on a bogey in her 6th under round of 66, moving into 2nd place. She was only beaten by Australia's Minjee Lee, who holds a 1-shot lead